In combat, there is a phenomenon called tunnel vision. People have heightened senses, especially in regards to sight and sound. Every resource in the body is rerouted to fighting. Digestion stops, excretion too. The problem with that phenomenon is that people tend to hyper-focus on one objective or target, and people become predictable and also open to counters. It has been observed that animals in captivity are not as intelligent as those in nature, because they're not faced with challenges and their brain mass shrinks. Knowing this, it's obvious why people in Marvel Rivals are so terrible. I've seen people stand in front of entire teams just attacking, as if they could down an entire squad by just standing still and firing. These same people then ask for healing as if the damage they received didn't exceed the healing speed. Don't forget that some healers also have cooldowns. Here's the thing, just the same way caged animals have lower intelligence, so does the average gamer. Can we even call most people who play nowadays gamers? We know most people barely make it halfway through a title. There's a reason for that change. The same way that the audience changed, games changed too. It used to be that games were all very diversified in their way of playing. Throughout each generation, that changed however. From the 1st to the 4th gen, so Atari to NES, games had general layouts for each genre, but they were not always respected. Pause was bound to start, but sometimes it was bound to select. Games were too different. There was not enough consistency. From the 5th to the 7th gen, games were somewhat homogenized in their schemes in regard to certain actions. The pause button being always start, or jump always being A or X. However, each game would still offer different playstyles, more specifically control schemes, and sometimes have their own methods to execute the same actions depending on the genre. Third-person shooters would have the bumper to aim and a face button to shoot, and later on, when games became more standardized, one trigger to aim and one to shoot. Meanwhile, a Metal Gear would only use the face button to shoot. Since shooting is de-emphasized, only one button is needed to shoot, and when switching to first person, the second stick is not used. You're stationary and use the left stick to aim. Those games had confrontation be discouraged. There was also greater breadth of playstyles. Stealth, horror RPG, platformer, fighting games, and the list goes on. Since the 7th gen, but really going strong with the 8th, every game became the same. Shooting, for example, was the same across all playstyles. Titles like Resident Evil were criticized upon re-release simply because it had guns but didn't play like a shooter. The thing is that having to relearn different layouts would evolve your ability to adapt and would make games feel different. Zangief feels like a heavy grappler because he doesn't move quickly and you have to make a few large circular motions. The contrary of a faster character that might need several long chains of inputs. When SF5 came out, people complained that everyone was now a Shotokan. Now, people don't care if every flavor is the same. Having different style forces you to adapt, and if certain styles don't work, well, there's always the possibility to switch. Now there's no switching. If you don't like how modern games play, well, you're kinda stuck. You only have one style of gameplay and you don't have the possibility anymore to go to another style of game. You can't escape into another genre. And don't talk to me about indie games. They've made the same mistake, except that they're stuck in an endless homogeneous spot of Metroidvanias. It also doesn't help that a lot of indie games are actually not indie and are government sponsored, and a lot of the people who work on these games are DI friendly. All of this is the reason why the DPS on your team sucks. He probably hasn't played anything older than 7th gen, probably hasn't evolved the capacity to adapt to different scenarios, nor have the capacity of spatial awareness or distance management. Hence, he stands in place, never flanking, never moving, and not understanding that you can't be at his beck and call. Oh, and there's also the fact that he probably lived in the town atomized with no sense of community or self-sacrifice, and you get the modern online player. A piece of shit. Have fun.